Today, I could say summer has finally arrived because I'm taking a first look at the Pegasus 36. .84 miles, 7 minutes, 51 seconds per mile today. Having an absolute fantastic time running in one of my favorite shoes of all time. The entire Pegasus line is a line of shoes that I've been enjoying thoroughly from the 32 on until today, and I'm very happy to finally get my hands on a pair of the Nike Zoom Pegasus 36. In terms of disclosures, this is a pair of shoes that I bought by myself, so there's nothing to disclose in that regard. And now with that out of the way, we can talk about the shoe itself. In terms of the midsole, there's not a lot of change to the midsole, which is going back to Nike's previous pattern where one year they'll change the midsole and outsole, and the next year they might change the upper. Last year was a little bit unusual in that they changed both, but this year the midsole is largely untouched. You've got Cushlon wrapping the full length Zoom Air pocket, and it just feels fantastic. Running in a Pegasus for me is like running with an old friend. You just pick up right where you left off, and there's a very comfortable, familiar feeling with it. It just feels right. And the 36, I'm very happy to say, hasn't messed with that formula at all. If anything, and I might just be imagining it, but it seems like the Zoom Air pocket is less prominent this year. I'm wondering two things: whether there are some manufacturing discrepancies in terms of like the initial springiness of the Zoom Air pocket. Usually that goes away over time after about 50 miles. Then it usually tends to mellow out, and all Zoom Air pockets kind of feel the same to me by that point. But this one just felt right from the beginning, or it didn't feel too springy, or it didn't feel like it was poking into my foot as I was walking or running around in this shoe for the first time today. So I feel like they've nailed it really well with this one. And so like the Cushlon and the Zoom Air are working really well together. We've still got the same pentagonal and then tire tread kind of pattern, the split pattern on the outsole. The one thing that I have noticed that looks a little bit different to me is that in this back area where I tend to have the most wear on my Pegasus, it seems like the nubs or these ridges here aren't as deep as last year. Again, something that could just be in my mind. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but I think it's a little bit different here. So that'll be interesting to see how that holds up over time, because last year I had the most wear right here, and then right here at this seam for this kind of guide system, right here at the seam, that's where I saw the most wear. So we'll see how that holds up over time. In terms of the upper, that's where I had the most problems with the 35 last year. The 35, I thought it was great, groundbreaking in a lot of ways in terms of design and the changes they had made to the midsole. But the upper was hot. It was a hot shoe, and I love to run in water, as you guys have seen, and people who have been subscribed and watching for a while know I love to run through the water. But with the Pegasus 35, I recall in like the dead of summer, it would be so hot, your sweat drips down your legs and kind of gets towards your feet. It had nowhere to go because the upper material was so thick and absorbent. And so I would remember if I wasn't running with music in, I could hear my feet squishing because the sweat was in the forefoot. I didn't notice any of that with this upper. It's much thinner and a lot stretchier than last year's. So I think they've done a fantastic job improving that upper. It did stay wet a little bit longer than I'd like. I wouldn't say it's 100% perfect, but I do think it's a lot better than last year. And the other problem that I had with last year's upper was that the toe box seemed really cramped. Now, when you look at this shoe, it looks like it's following the pattern where Nike shoes have really shallow toe boxes, but this material is stretchy, and I don't know if they've changed the kind of the footprint of the shoe to make the toe box a little bit wider, but I didn't feel any of the squishedness that I felt last year. I felt like I had a little bit more room in here. It felt just right. Still felt snug and secure, like I like in a running shoe, but I didn't feel like I was jamming my foot into a shoe like I felt a little bit with the Pegasus 35. The other changes that you'll see is that the tongue is very different. Last year, the tongue was like super tall for no real reason. I guess kind of like a double pull tab system. Maybe it was easier to put on, but that also contributed to a lot of heat. They went the opposite way and kind of cut the tongue off, and it's very much Vomero-like in terms of, it reminds me a lot of like a soccer cleat. It's not as padded as the Vomeros. It's not padded at all. It's just a lot of the material that's on here. So those of you who had problems with the Vomero tongue and the Flyknit and how that all worked together on the top of your foot may have some issues with this shoe. I didn't have any of those issues with the Vomero. I didn't have any of those issues here. The tongue is also, again, slightly different than the Vomero 14 tongue in that instead of it being symmetrical like it was in the Vomero 14, it's offset a little bit on the tongue here towards the outer part of your foot, kind of like the Zoom Fly and the Vaporfly tongues, but it's not notched. So it's kind of notched and it isn't. So it's kind of like an in-between those two types of tongues. The other main thing that I've noticed that's different in this one, other than the nice little hint of an extra Nike swoosh in there, is that the heel cup is much further cut away from your ankle. And it reminds me a lot, again, of the Vomero 14, where everything felt really low and like the whole idea was to stay very far away from your ankle. So I felt like less of the shoe was touching me in this area here than in previous Pegasus. And something that I noticed that was different, but it also felt good. I felt very secure all the way around in the foot. Nothing felt loose or like I was going to slip out. Overall, I just had a fantastic time running in this shoe. I had most of my run today, I wanted to keep around the 8 minutes, 15 seconds per mile mark. I'm in the taper now. I have 1 week from the time I'm filming this, or 8 days from the running footage, which was from yesterday. I'll be running the Tunnel Marathon just outside of Seattle. So I did want to keep it relatively moderate or moderate easy, but I just was having a lot of fun running in this shoe. I did have 2 marathon pace miles, which were nice and easy to get to and to maintain that speed. So certainly no problem getting up to speed in this shoe. Running slower speeds in this shoe aren't a problem either. All around, this is going to be a really great daily trainer for me. And even after this marathon, as I'm running this summer preparing for the fall, I'm definitely going to be putting a ton of miles in this shoe just because I really enjoy running in it. And when I think about kind of what a running shoe should feel like a general daily trainer, this is kind of what I'm thinking of. It's not too plush, it's not too firm, there's not too much going on to distract you from the run. You're really just, it's you and the road. That's kind of what I feel when I'm running in this shoe. I'm still going to be a little bit concerned about heat once we get to July and August in Chicago, some of the hottest months, especially since on this run, I did feel like the water was not really getting out of the shoe as fast as I would have liked. So something to keep in mind, but overall, still a big improvement from last year's version, the 35. So those are my first thoughts after one long run in the Zoom Pegasus 36. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'd love to talk to you guys down there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?